Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today at the University of California, Riverside for this significant event, Echoes of Resilience, 50 years after Chile's coup. Today, we gather to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Chilean coup, a dark chapter in history that altered countless lives and reshaped our understanding of democracy and human rights.
As we embark on today's program featuring Marianne Teleki and Héctor Salgado's documentary Special Circumstances and the accompanying art exhibition, we invite you to reflect, learn, and engage deeply with the theme of memory, justice, and resilience. This event is not just a remembrance, but a call to acknowledge and address the ongoing impacts of such historical events on our present and future. This event is hosted at the University of California, Riverside, and that's why we at UCR would like to respectfully acknowledge and recognize our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water and air, the Cahuilla, Tongva, Luiseño, and Serrano peoples, and all their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, this meeting place is home to many indigenous peoples from all over the world, including UCR faculty, students, and staff, and we are grateful to have this opportunity to live and work on these homelands.
As Rio Junto, we must acknowledge that we're living through harrowing times for humanity. The brutal Russian invasion to Ukraine has gone for over 2 years. In Sudan, more than 7 million people have been displaced from their homes. In Haiti, gangs hold power, unleashing waves of violence after decades of failed colonial interventionism. And in Ecuador, narco-criminal organizations murder politicians who oppose them and threaten the population. All this while the State of Israel perpetrates a genocide against the Palestinian people under the indifferent eyes of powers that claim to defend peace and democracy, committing crimes against humanity that will be infamously remembered by history, such as the Flower Massacre or the recent slaughter in the Al-Shifa hospital. In this context, we face challenges at every level of existence, and we must respond wherever possible. In academia, we need to listen and provide support to our colleagues and students, ensuring that contemporary apathy does not dominate our actions. In artistic production, we must use our time responsibly and creatively deal with horror towards a horizon of transformation. This is what inspires Rio Junto, as a platform aiming to blur the boundaries between creation, academia, and the rest of the world as if they were separate realms.
Lastly, but not least, we would like to express our deep gratitude to all the institutions that supported this initiative and made it possible. UCR College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Science, Center for Ideas and Society, UC Riverside, the Hispanic Studies Department, the Hispanic Studies Grad Students Association, the Media and Cultural Studies Department, and the Globe Fellow Program for the Arts. With that said, let us introduce our two honored guests.
And also the Latino and Latin American Research Center to also thank you so much for all your support and for being here also all the way.
Yeah.
And first, an applause for all our supporters, please. Thank you so much. Now, let us introduce our esteemed guest. Marianne Teleki, director and producer of this documentary, was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, California, Mexico, and Brazil. Special Circumstances, the documentary that they're sharing today with us, Marianne's directorial debut received the Special Jury Prize at the International Documentary Film Festival, FIDOCS, in Santiago, Chile, and the Best Documentary at the Berkeley Film Festival, as well as 7 other awards, including Best Bay Area Filmmaker at the International Latino Film Festival in San Francisco.
Héctor Salgado, a Chilean-born American filmmaker and human rights defender, directed the award-winning documentary Special Circumstances. The film was featured in over 30 festivals worldwide, earned 9 awards, and was broadcast on PBS. As a former political prisoner under Pinochet, Salgado now works at San Quentin's maximum security prison on death penalty cases and is developing his feature film project, Red Flowers. He has also received multiple grants and organized post-dictatorship Chilean cinema tours in California. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros.
Muchas gracias. Un aplauso para nuestros invitados. Now we're going to open with a few words of our guest, and then we're going to continue with the documentary. Okay?
First of all, I just wanted to thank Nico and Joe for bringing us here. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. We love sharing the film. It's been a long time since we finished the film. We started in 2000. We finished it in 2006. And since then, we've been showing it around, as you heard, and then also across universities, and not just in the United States, but in other parts of the world as well. Can't remember what else I was going to share. I think that was it, because you all said no. Yeah. So
I have something to say. Well, thank again to the UC Irvine, Riverside, ¿verdad? Con Irvine, and Nico and Joe and everybody who came today to see the film. So as you can see in the back, I have an exhibit there, and we've never done this. This is the first time that we connect the film with my time at the Quiriquina Island concentration camp in Chile in 1973. So I can explain later on more about what that means. And I want you to think about something when you're watching the film, that the film, you might feel at the end that nothing was achieved with the film, but we have news regarding a couple of court cases that were put together in Chile after seeing the film. And we were able to put in prison some of the people that you're going to see hiding in the film, which is something that we did, they did in the last maybe 5 years. So enjoy the film.
Thank you.
Ahora todo el mundo dijo, bueno, hay que ir a sacarlo de ahí y guardarlo. I think about the past, but I also think about the future and the present. I think the process of confronting these people, they really helped me in terms of understanding my past and what happened in Chile, and I feel much better about that part of my history.
Bueno, muchas gracias por asistir a este screening. Les damos la palabra a ustedes que quieren conversar. Si tienen preguntas del público también, por supuesto, la palabra es suya.
Sí, muchas gracias. Me imagino que tienen muchas preguntas y tenemos poco tiempo, así que empiecen.
¿Alguien del público tiene alguna pregunta, comentario, para compartir alguna reflexión?
Hola, muchas gracias. A mí me gustaría solo saber qué ha progresado, qué cosas han pasado. Me gustaría mucho saber eso.
Sí, como decía al principio, I'm sorry. Like I said before at the beginning, the question is if something happened in terms of the law or putting some of these criminals in prison, for example. And yes, we finished in 2007, and since then, many of the people that we confronted have been put in prison. The person at the end of the film, Dubachel, who was in charge of the War Tribunal, who put my friends Fernando and Aidan to execution, he died a couple of years ago. but he was never asked by the judicial system of Chile to explain anything that he did. There are a couple of other ones who, after doing the crimes in my hometown, Tomé, were hired by the DINA, the secret police. I guess they did a good job for them, and they were hired, and they were the worst criminals of the secret police, the DINA, and they were also arrested and stayed in prison for many years, and some of them died in prison. And I don't know, Marianne, do you have it?
I don't know. You know more about that part.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty happy. We keep receiving letters from the friends saying, that such and such, this person who was in the film was arrested, or there's a process going on, and so that is really good for us. It's because for many years that didn't happen, and it's only in the last maybe 10 years that many of them have been arrested. So we feel really good about it.
Gracias. ¿Alguien tiene otra pregunta? Bueno, yo. Prefiero abordar.
Pues, en primer lugar agradecer a Nico y a yo y a ustedes por compartir este documental, y pues obviamente hacer preguntas o discutir en estos contextos es muy difícil. Más bien me gustaría escucharles hablar más sobre qué llevó a la idea de dejar esto grabado. Es decir, es un proceso difícil, fuerte, pero pareciera que a lo largo, creo que una gran virtud del documental es que no está solo contando una historia que ustedes quieren recuperar, sino contando la historia de qué significó para ti llevar a cabo este proceso y recuperar, escuchar esas voces, la decepción en el proceso, pero también como la importancia de dejarlo, ¿no?, escrito, recorded. Y me gustaría escuchar un poco más sobre eso, porque creo que el documental es muy exitoso en hacer eso posible.
Sí, muchas gracias. Yo sé que tú estás en el ámbito de la memoria, me contaron, y la pregunta tiene mucho que ver con tu trabajo, obviamente. So the question is basically what was the reason why I decided to tell this story? So there are many things. I always wanted to tell the story of Fernando because he was a really good friend of mine. We were neighbors and childhood friends. But I also wanted to tell the story of my hometown because 52 people from my hometown were arrested and put on this war tribunal. Some of them were executed formal, by being condemned to death. Some others were executed during torture. So there's many people from my hometown who were killed after the coup. So I already had that idea on mind. And there's something that happens to people after 30 years. We find out later that there's some kind of something happened that triggers your memory. And it happens to the people who suffered the Holocaust. And it happens also to women who were raped. It takes many years for people to find strength to talk about these issues. And that happened to me because it was right at the 30-year anniversary of the coup, and we started thinking about maybe I want to tell this story. And I was thinking maybe writing something. And then I think Marianne should take it from here because she's very responsible for the rest.
Well, the way the idea came about was I was very bored with my job, and I was going to film classes in the evening, and I thought, well, one day maybe I'll work on somebody's film. And I love film because it combines the things that I'm most interested in, that I most love: education, politics, and art. And I love the documentary format because it's a discovery format. You find the movie as you're filming it. And Héctor had been working on the Lagos campaign, one of the presidents of Chile, that he kind of regrets now, but, but at the time he was very excited.
We all make mistakes.
And he was invited to the inauguration. And it was a VIP invitation. They were paying for his ticket and put him up in the hotel and take him to the inauguration. And when we got the letter and he opened it and we were standing in the kitchen, it just seemed so strange, the way that he left his country in shackles with, did you have any money? I forgot. No money. No money. You were given $40 when you landed. Didn't know where he was going. Couldn't, his mom was there to say goodbye, but they couldn't touch each other. And not allowed to come back for 12 years. It just seemed, we have to make a movie about this. We kind of looked at each other and said, we should make a movie about this. And of course the movie ended up not being about that, but we found a different way. We really were following Héctor's lead, so whatever he wanted to do, was the plan. That was the plan. What do you want to do? Who are we going to go to first? What are you going to ask him? Where are you going to sit? How are we going to find them? How are we going to make sure that they're the right people? That it's actually the right person who did this. So, yeah.
I just want a little more information about that. So the War Tribunal, they ended the whole case with a War Tribunal document. It's like 500 pages. Just like the Nazis, they wanted to keep track of everything. And then I was able to, I have a friend in Chile who has a bishop at the Catholic Church. And they found this War Tribunal document in Santiago, in some of this human rights organization connected to the church. So I got it, and I started looking at everything, and that was the base for the investigation and research. Because like Marianne was saying, I wanted to make sure that I was going to go after people who were guilty, not people who had nothing to do with the coup, or who were there but they didn't torture or kill people. So we put together a list of like 25 people, and I was 100% sure that all of them were involved in torture, killing. And but the thing that I wanted to talk about, and it has to do with memory, is that there was a time that I quit. I decided that it was too much for me. I have friends who told me, if you do a film, everybody's going to know about your story, you're going to expose yourself, and people might go after you. So I went to therapy, which I never did before, and I spent a couple of years in therapy. And with my therapist, we started talking about why I was doing this, and how to protect myself from all of this. I was very afraid confronting people and then getting abused, either physically or mentally. And so I got a lot of help from my therapist. And as you can see in the film, I never wear a suit before the film, but I bought the suit because for me, it was kind of like the Middle Age, like armor that you put before you go into battle. And it's amazing how people treat you when you're dressed very well. And so we had a lot of ideas about how to protect myself. And yeah.
Did that answer your question?
It's okay, more than a question, I just wanted to have it. Is that the document that you're carrying with you in the documentary, the 500 pages report from the World Tribunal?
Yeah, the document is, I donated to the Museum of Memory in Chile, they have it now.
Hola, gracias por ese documental, por ese material excelente. Mi pregunta va un poco acerca del proceso en el cual esto se fue grabado y demás. Si en algún momento se sintieron, no sé, presionados, perseguidos, para intentar como que esto no siguiera como adelante en toda esta investigación.
O sea, si nos sentimos presionados para terminar la película o para,
Sí, para no publicarla.
perseguidos.
Ajá.
You know, really, so the question is, did we feel threatened or yeah, in any way? You know, and I know Héctor has said this too. We didn't really think about that. You know, it was kind of like, this is what we're doing. We were really determined, and just, you know, when we went to Chile and we put together the crew, they couldn't believe what we were doing. They were like, wait, what are we doing? And it just, you know, it's one of those things, I think, you know, others here may have experienced this as well, is when you're really, you know what you're doing is right, and you're really committed. We didn't think about that. There were times where we were really, really nervous, and yeah, where we were sort of required to feel afraid, because we were in situations where we could have been like not been able to get out, and you know, going into secured areas to find somebody and then wondering, are we going to be able to get out of the gate that we came in? But I think during the making of the film, we were just really, really determined.
I think we also had some kind of strategies to film. Like the main guys that I know were kind of dangerous, and I went to a house where they asked my passport, and the guy was looking at me, and like I was thinking, like, this guy is going to flip now and jump over me and beat the crap out of me. So that was my very, very nervous. So for people like that I had suspicion that they could flip and be aggressive, we left them at the end of the trip, the production trip. So basically we were going to Viña del Mar, Valparaíso, Concepción. We'll confront them, take the taxi to the airport, and get out of Chile immediately. So a lot of, that was, and also we did very short productions in Chile, sometimes no more than a week. So we hit, 5 or 6 of them, and the idea was also that they didn't have time to communicate with each other and put together a story that it makes, they were all lines all the time. There was one guy who set up a meeting for us, and we got to Santiago, or like a big plaza, square. We got there and he wasn't there. And we started looking. I said, he's looking at us. And he was driving a motorcycle, and then he ran away. They wanted to know, who are these people? What are they doing? Do they have security or whatever? So those were tense time, but it didn't stop us for doing the film at all.
If no one else has a comment? No? Okay. So I just wanted to, at the beginning of the movie, and we have been talking about this like movement of cultural gathering in Berkeley. Y creo que al final de la película también mencionas que la película generó como una, no sé si decirlo, como un sentimiento de sanación, no sé si se quiera mencionar así, pero sé que tú haces parte de todo este movimiento cultural que está en Berkeley, en La Peña, en lo que vimos, y siento que es como este círculo que estamos hablando ahorita, que empieza la película con esto y también termina con otro sentimiento. ¿Cómo crees que esta experiencia de haber hecho la película también te empujó a generar otras experiencias mucho más creativas, de comunidad en otros espacios como en Berkeley, tan lejos, y si crees que eso está relacionado con este proceso.
¿La traduzco la pregunta o todo el mundo la entendió?
I'm sorry.
So the question is, how did my culture work? Like at the beginning of the film, being a musician, and then at the end, talking about the impact of my culture work in Berkeley, where I live, and I've been living there since 1981. And I have two comments about that. One is that before we finished the film, we did a test. We showed the movie to the Chilean community and friends in Berkeley, La Peña. And for me, and for Marianne also, because Marianne always talked about this, it was very, very emotional to see a lot of Chileans with the same experience that I have, opening and talking. And then one day we did a circle where all the people who had some kind of experience during the coup in Chile, they wanted to talk. And first time I see a lot of people crying, and sons and daughters of the Chilean exile learning for the first time that their parents went to some really difficult time. So, and I think that kind of like connected us, at a deeper level as a community. And I've been doing music for many years because I learned how to play guitar in prison, and then when I came to New York first, I lived there for many years. I was asked to perform in all the political activities. And when I got to Berkeley, I became a member of Grupo Raíz, it's a folk ensemble. So I always wanted to, for example, I wanted to talk about these things in the back, about the Quiriquina concentration camp. Because I've been involved not only in films, but also in music and installations. I decided that for the 50-year anniversary or commemoration of the coup, I wanted to do a big exhibit explaining the situation of more than 800 people who were in that concentration camp in the south of Chile. That was a Navy base. So the concentration camp is where we were there during the day, and then there was another place where they were putting all of us at night. There's some pictures there, and there are a couple of pictures of Navy ships and a submarine. That is part of another, the exhibit, but another part of the exhibit that I couldn't bring here, which is the testimony of American sailor and their involvement in the coup on September 11, 1973. It's a 16-minute interview that I did. And so in the installation for the 50 year, I have the monitor of him talking about what he did to support the coup in Chile. He was an American sailor. And you wanna?
I'm just thinking, I always think about one of the things that was the most impactful was, and you mentioned this, the children. So, our kids, our daughters that you see in the movie who are now 30 and 32, so it tells you how old the movie is. And the kids of these other exiles who, as Héctor alluded to, they hadn't told their story. So, there was a time where it was always collective. You would always think of the collective. You would never think about the personal. And in fact, thinking about the personal was looked down upon, right? So personal documentaries started to come out in, the 90s maybe. And they were kind of looked down upon for that reason. But the personal documentary is, as we now realize, right, how powerful it is. We had Jaime Salazar, for example, who's a friend of ours who was a political prisoner, who's exiled in Berkeley. His daughter, Laura, interned on our film. When she was watching the footage alone, in our garage that became an office. She was documenting the footage. She was hearing the story for the first time, and she came out of the office and was just, you know, in tears, and just said, "This is what happened to my dad, and I didn't even know this." And Jaime's wife, Ellen, at one point thanked us. She said, "You know, before you would never, ever, ever talk about this, and now he just can't stop talking about it." So, and when we would go around the world with the film, you know, exiles from Chile all over the world, you told the story of a kid was it in Holland, at the film festival in Holland?
Yeah.
In the Netherlands?
There's so many.
Yeah, and so they're hearing the story for the first time, and now they get to hear it from their parents, and that was just really impactful. And people who had a different story. So Hector's nephew, who was raised by people who were conservative, who told him a different story. After he saw the movie, he fell apart and was, you know, could barely get the words out to say he was sorry to his grandmother, Hector's mom, and to Hector, and that he didn't know, and he never understood because he would say hurtful things and ignorant things. So it's a wonderful way to open up the community and for generations, because of course these things impact generations.
I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you again for all your work. It's such a brave act, but everything that you both did, like you're the protagonist, but it's a story that you shared, you're together, you have a shared history, and also as being from Chile, it's also like this shows so many of our shared history too, and being from, well, living in this world, in these circumstances, I know that many of us share some of this at some point, and I really appreciate that the courage to take this project so far. There are so many interesting things that I would love to keep discussing. We're going to have more time after this, fortunately. We could keep talking about like the exile, even the concept of the interior exile that some here work, like your friend Nano that he was sharing, like he was exiled, he felt that like he lost everyone that were there with all of you. Things like that are awesome about this work, that there's a perspective, a regional perspective that we don't see that often. We're talking about Tomé, that's not Santiago, not just Valparaíso, Concepción. That's something that is super important about this work that you've done, and many other things that I will love to keep, and I will love to keep talking about after this. So I have one thing that I would love to point out, because we were talking with Joe and with you last night about this, that it's also to, like, how fascinating is to think about the opportunities that the ecosystems foster to create works like these ones, how your work impacted also the creation of other super impactful works like Ciudad de Fotógrafos. Like, if you could share a little bit about that, like some kind of closure for this, and to think also on film, on literature, on video games, on any other media, to think about the importance of fostering spaces like this one, where we can talk and relate different ways to express all these deep and meaningful histories that we share. And my question also, the last one, and sorry for taking this privilege, is you were able to do this work that we appreciated a lot, but if you would never have this chance before, for any reason, resources, the lack of that opportunities, that the ecosystem where you were like opened up for you, if you would have to do the documentary now, which approach would you take? I'm doing it today, like from 2024.
What approach?
Yeah, like
I would Yeah, I think that the approach would be very much the same, because this movie was made by a need to tell the story that it was deep inside me, and I couldn't forget about it. I couldn't, and I mean, you know, but maybe the people just don't know that I'm doing another film. It's a fiction film about the execution itself, because I was able to interview the guard who spent 72 hours with my friends before the execution. So the film is based exclusively to the interview that I did to him, and it has to do with the three young people from Chile, about the same age, 20, 22, and 25, who are confronted with death. One prison guard who have to decide, do I run away with them? Do I open the cell and I run away with them, or I do my job and they don't kill me? And the the prisoners, Fernando and Iran, trying to figure out, why do we have to die? I mean, why us? So young and the whole life ahead of them. So I think that the personal issue is what and my connection to Fernando and my hometown Tomé, but also to my mother. My mother, I think, was fundamental in my upbringing to fight for injustices. My mother was a huge fighter. She was a working class woman, divorced, but a fighter. And I think that I got some of that, to fight against injustice. And also because I felt like I had a story. I was, I'm very, I collect information, I collect pictures, I collect stories. I love to collect things. And I had so many things in my house that at one point I decided that I needed to take it to the Museum of Memory, because I had pictures from inside prison, testimonies, everything that had to do with my incarceration and exile. I filed everything, and it's good to have that information, because for future generations. I've been at my house in Berkeley, and I get phone calls from Chile, from the Museum of Memory. I said, Héctor, I just saw your pictures. And it's like, that's great that people can see stories like mine and many other stories that are there at the Museum of Memory. And the only reason they're there is because people are donating and sharing these stories. But I also happen to be married to a wonderful wife who believed in this story and who wanted to help me out. And it wasn't easy. We worked together for like 6 years, 7 years. And we had fights sometimes because we were spending too much money, our money on the film. My daughters asked the two of us not to talk about the film after 5 p.m. So it was a hard thing. But when you have the need to tell stories, it's nothing can stop you. Nothing.
And I would just add, and I don't know if this answers your question, Nico, but if we were to make this film again today, I think that when we made it, it was the right time. It was the time to make it. This 30-year thing is real, and Héctor's mom has passed away. The prison guard had never told anybody the story that he told us, except for his mom. And so a lot of these people they were ready to talk at that moment. We would take a taxi to somewhere in Tomé, and the taxi driver, what are you doing? We'd tell him what we were doing, and then he would start talking about his story. And before that, people, as I said before, were not talking about it. And so it was the right time to make the movie. As far as Sebastián Moreno is a filmmaker. He was our camera person, and he had never made a film. He was a camera person, and later he told us, you know, I made a film because I saw you guys making a film. Because I thought, if these guys can make a film, I can make a film. So, and he did, and he made a beautiful movie called City of Photographers about his father, who was a photographer during the dictatorship, and about that group of photographers. Really amazing movie. So, yes, that's that story.
And also in Berkeley, I think that we also motivated a lot of friends to write stories. Like we have Fernando Torres, who wrote a book about all the exile stories. And Salazar, this person who didn't want to talk about anything, is very active in human rights issues. And he was a former Navy sailor. So yeah, we had an impact in many, you know, in our community and also in Chile.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming. It was very inspired to all of us that we are scholars trying to do our job and to give a little piece of the history and stories that are personal but become like global. Someone asked me if you just can, just last thing, to explain a little bit, if everybody wants to, if someone wants to get closer to the exhibition for you to explain, and that's the last part of our activity.
Yeah, but first, one more applause for our guests. And now we invite you to this art exhibition, part of this event, Echoes of Resilience.